We are live on co-working with Red Worldwide, and we're excited that you have joined us here today. We want to make sure that everybody is aware of where you can find the information for Red Worldwide. Currently, you can go to our website, redworldwide.org, and find resources there for assisting in everything business, all things business. We are a company that actually is centered on helping people to do business better. And our concepts of what can happen for you really are endless, in that we really do believe that people have within them a design for what it is that they want to do. It just has to be brought out. And so we do help you explore, strategize, and achieve results. And you see that probably going in the background of our co-working session. And so with that being said, today is Wednesday. And on Wednesdays, we concentrate on innovation. And I am so excited to really have that conversation with you today, because we really work a lot with inventors and people who have products and services that they want to bring to market. A lot of the times when we're working with people who are wanting to bring their products and services to market, they are used to seeing that product apart from them, as a sometimes as a challenge. They see it as, oh my gosh, I really have this idea, this thing that I believe can be amazing, but getting it to the market is going to be, something that, it's going to be hard, or it's going to really be something that I'm going to have to, put on the back burner, or I'm going to have to quit my job, or I'm going to have to, get rid of, whatever it is that I'm doing in my spare time so that I can work on it. And I want to give you a different viewpoint. I was in a session yesterday, and as I was talking about, how we innovate with some amazing people. One was my instructor, and another gentleman that's in the class. And we were in this session discussing, the whole concept of innovation, and how sometimes it is very much a path. It's not a situation where there's this static event and you do what you do, it's completed, done, and now you can move on to something else. It really is more than that. A lot of the times you are creating something based on a problem that needed to be solved. And for that reason, the path for innovation really does lie in how you find solutions to problems. I have watched it, with many of the clients that we work with, how they have this idea, and the idea is born out of frustration, or the idea is born out of something that, someone else needed. And they saw a way to provide for that need, and in doing so, creation was born. An invention was designed. And I have one very, very special situation that I have in mind, and I was thinking about the client. He saw a situation in which people's children, or the elderly people, were in a car, and it was hot, and they were left there too long. And in some cases, the children died, or they were severely harmed, or the elder passed away because of the heat. And so he created a solution to that problem and got it patented, and now he's on the road to having that patent be used in Africa. And so again, sometimes the solution to problems for other people, but sometimes the solution to a problem for yourself. You'll see something and you'll say, you know what, this is not working for me. Let me fix it. And then you fix it, and then you're like, you know what, based on what I've done, that can also be a solution for someone else. And I'm sure that those of you who are on the line, and those of you who are seeing it now, later, you probably can say that to be the case for things that you might have worked on, or things that even the business that you have probably was a solution to a problem, or a solution for something that you really needed to have completed. And so when we're looking at this, we want to embark upon a journey, in this dynamic world of innovation, but we want to see it from a different perspective. It's not just about inventing new things. It's about taking ideas and transforming them into impactful realities. The spark that really has ignited us as humans throughout history, it really does continue to shape the future, because as we are looking at things that need to be brought into the earth realm or created, if we can say it that way, we see it, from the standpoint of, okay, we want to get to a particular place. How do we get there? So let's kind of travel back in time. Consider the innovation of the wheel, the printing press, the airplane, or the flight, by the Wright brothers. Those weren't just new gadgets. They were pivotal moments in history, okay? They redefined how things were being done in life. Someone created AI, and it has changed the fabric of how we do things forever in business. It's given us the ability to, take less time to do the same work, okay, that we've always been doing, and because we've been able to insert a tool that was a creation by someone, into our business or into our personal or professional lives in a way that we now don't have to work nearly as many hours on certain things because we're able to use AI. AI has been around a long time, by the way, and I'm going to open up and ask people to unmute their mics, because we're going to talk about this in a minute, about the importance of innovation today and what it is that you're doing to innovate and things that you might have questions about. I want to be here as an open book to kind of answer questions, about that. But understanding that these critical problems that we bring solutions to are the open doors to new possibilities. I mean, I always use the innovation of the paperclip as my example. And before this little bitty clip here, okay, was actually a clip, it was in somebody's mind, how do we solve this issue of being able to keep papers clipped together? And someone said, well, I took some wire and I, made it around, or I should say an oval, and then I fix it so that the two pieces can, kind of touch each other, and I can put it on some paper, it would clip together. I also have seen, where in situations I didn't have a paper clip or I didn't have a stapler, and I was able to take the paper and fold, kind of tear just a little bit, fold one piece back and the other piece forward, and the two pieces of paper were stay clipped together. Danita, I see you. That's been something that I used for years. Somebody thought of that. Okay, I didn't think of that myself. I watched someone else do it, and I was like, oh wow, that's a really neat way to put things together. Let me try it, and it worked perfectly for me. There are other things that I think about that I have created, and we talk about this all the time. That where something will come to our mind and we'll start putting it into place, and then we'll share that with someone else, and now they begin to use it and it becomes a trend, but it saves effort. So when we talk about the way that we do this, in our rapidly changing world, we want to look at the importance of innovation today. It's more crucial now than ever because it drives our economic growth. It solves complex global challenges. If someone's able to see something that it's already in the market, but they're able to tweak it just a little bit so that it can be used globally or be used widely, or it could be used cheaper, than what other things have cost, then it could improve the quality of life, for many people. From smartphones to renewable energy, innovative ideas are shaping our sustainable and connected world. And so we have to look at some of these modern trends for innovation and see, okay, what is it that I have that I can put forth, that changes things, and right now we're just talking about the innovation itself. We're not talking about how much money you can make with it, or, how you could change your life forever by something that you create. I just want you to really think about, what is it that I have? What has been put inside of me that I could offer to bring solutions solution to a problem or to add value to what it is that we're already doing. We are witnessing a surge in the digital innovation world. Artificial intelligence, the blockchain, biotechnologies. These aren't just buzzwords, but they're really the frontiers. I mean, of our modern innovation. It's what helps us to kind of move forward. And the technologies, and I do call all of this technology because it is a way of doing something. They're redefining industries and empowering people, individuals across the globe, to be and helping them to be able to do things. So when we're looking at this from the standpoint that we see it, we want to be able to see it from the innovative mindset. It starts with mindset. It's all about curiosity and willingness to challenge the status quo. To have courage and take risk. You can foster your mindset, for innovation by really embracing the concept of lifelong learning. Now, let me tell you about that because for me, at times when some people would consider it downtime, and I'm like, okay, no, that's learning time. If there's a time when I'm able to, even when I'm relaxing, if I'm able to relax, I've got a book in my hand because I like to read, and or I'll have a pad so I can draw or put something down. A lot of those creative moments come out of me in that time when I would be considered to be in my downtime. And the interesting thing about it is it comes out of me in such a grand fashion in those downtime moments. So how do we foster that mindset? Well, having a different viewpoint or perspective on how you see your creativity, it really does help because you need to be able to understand that being open to new perspectives is going to be your key to innovation. I often talk about the fact that when we began to hire, contractors and staff, we hired engineers. And it wasn't like I went out and said, hey, I'm going to hire an engineer. No, an engineer came to me and said, hey, I want to volunteer for your organization. And I'm like, volunteer, really? And she's like, yes. I'm like, how did she find us? Okay. And she told us, well, you were on the website, as a volunteer opportunity, and I would like to come volunteer for you. And she volunteered for us, and she did such a good job. We wanted to hire her, and she said yes. So interestingly enough, she began to work for us, and immediately her first thing in was she was looking at how I did work, and she's like, "You're working too hard. Let me help you." Okay. She says, I want to solve this problem for you. And she created a system, a process that saved me effort. It saved me time, and then she continued to create systems and processes. She says, I want to learn how to do this particular thing. Could you guys, sponsor me getting that particular knowledge so that I can create a process to serve you, where you were able to take less time doing that so you can spend more time with clients. And it was really true because some of the processes that she put in place and that the other people that she brought with her, because she brought like a team of engineers, there's the three of them, and they were amazing, amazing young ladies, gone on now to do work in their fields. But at that time, they solved a lot of the problems that we had in our industry, as well as in our own shop, in our small community. The problems that they solved for us helped us to create a process so we could solve that same problem for other people, and so it's really interesting when you're looking at this fostering an innovative mindset. It starts with you seeing yourself as a vehicle for innovation, a vehicle for producing something of quality that can add value to other people, not just creating something that helps you, but when you're helping yourself, you're helping others, So as we kind of conclude this thought, okay, I want you to remember that innovation is not the exclusive domain for geniuses or tech giants. It's a path to all of us, I mean, it really is a path for all of us. I encourage you to really embrace the concept of having an innovative mindset and be curious, take some time to really dream about fixing something for yourself that could also fix it for other people. Transform your ideas into a reality that can shape a better future for everyone. And when you see it that way, then what happens is that that whole concept can really open up, doors for other people. I want you to kind of unmute your mics because I really want to have some synergy here, and have someone, I mean, potentially share, their thoughts about, the concept of creating and innovating or creating other iterations of things that could possibly solve a problem for someone else.
So I guess I'll go. So
That's
I'm
good.
Danita. I'm the owner of Tailored Creations. And so I had the amazing opportunity to come to the Q1 Summit, which was such a wealth of information. And so why I'm here on co-working now, I'm in my gleaning area. And so I just wanted to say, so for my business, as a child, my mother was a single mother. She was a teacher, and there was 8 of us. So any parties were like non-existent, right? And so it birthed something in me as I got older. I was like, you know what? I became a parent, and I'm like, okay, yes, I do have time for parties, but I don't know. Kids, we want to be, and I'm adult now, probably talking from my child side, but we want to be recognized. We want to know that, our special day is so important. So, hence Tailored Creations, which I do custom party favors, personalized party favors, and when I do that, I'm doing it in the mindset of a parent who is overwhelmed, who's working, maybe going to school, maybe a single parent. And I'm looking, how can it's an answer to mom or dad's problem, right? I don't have time for it, but guess what? I can give it to someone and their creativity can take care of it. Hence, the child is still feeling like, oh my God, you did this for me. So that's for me, that's where I am. It's an answer, as you told me, because I didn't even look at it like that before. So I'm like, it's an answer, and I understand where it came from. So I'm so excited to God to just be able to do something like that, for children and for parents. So yes.
No, that's amazing because, the concept itself is not a new concept, but it's an iteration on a concept that could be, very helpful for a lot of people. And so when we're looking at it from that way, or from that perspective, it really does, resonate because it's like, oh, this was from her inner child. She desired a party and now she creates parties for other people. I wanted to see if Javon was on the line because I know that she recently posted some amazing things on Instagram and has really begun. She's written a children's book that talks to children about creativity, and how she was able to reconnect with her child, her inner child, so that she could um, do something amazing, in the metaverse. And some amazing creations that she's doing now really were born out of something that happened for her at that time. And so I don't know if she's able to unmute her mic and, would share just a little bit. There you are. If you'll share just a little bit of what you're experiencing, and with the same concept that Danita talked about, the solving of a problem or creating an answer, for something that, you have been working on or something that someone else is working on by connecting with that part of you that allows you to create freely.
Okay. Well, hi, my name is Javon Freeman. I am CEO and founder of Divine Lux Properties. We are a VR and AR solutions company that builds environments in the metaverse. I started my journey in the metaverse in 2021, and it was birthed out of desperation of needing an escape from at the time a job that I just really just was not very happy with being, and I felt like it was very lackluster at the time. And I kind of had just was just existing in this job, and just doing what I had to do to just get along at that point. And my son actually talked me into getting this headset. He begged me, and I went and bought the MetaQuest 2. And from that point, it just I played a few games at first with him, and then I found myself in in an experience that Meta had got together called Venues. It was basically an event space for people to socialize and have watch concerts and short movies and documentaries and things like that. And around, I want to say, maybe September of 2021, they had a experience called Horizon Worlds, and I went over there. At first, it was just to be social with everyone and have a good time, and someone introduced me to the building aspect of it. Um, didn't really understand how it worked, but I got acclimated to how the building aspect worked, and I really wasn't really interested in really doing it. I enjoyed it, and I kind of just, did it periodically, and then I don't something happened and I started
So,
doing.
so stop there. Stop there. Okay. All right. Something happened. What
Okay.
was it that happened for you that actually sparked this, creativity portion that where you just kind of went into the building aspect of it, the creator aspect of it?
Well, I had a lot of people that I was around that created some amazing experiences, and I was
When you
happy.
say experiences,
I
explain us.
mean, they
Some
would
people, some
well
people don't know what that
in
is.
in the virtual space, it basically puts you in a place fully immersed in an environment that you're not really in. So basically the goal ultimately when you're building in these spaces is to make someone feel like they are actually in that physical place. So just for example, I build homes in the metaverse. That's how I started. So I started building these experiences. I built my first, home in Meta Horizon Worlds, and it started out as this kitchen. And for me, the kitchen is a really close place in my heart. My mother and I did a lot of things in the kitchen as a child. She taught me a lot of things in the kitchen. So that's where it all started. First thing I ever built was a kitchen. I had kitchen cabinets, and it just was the most extravagant kitchen at the time. I was just like, oh my God, this is next level, right? So I built it, and then I went from building the kitchen to building the entire house. So to the point where it was so realistic, to the point where I had cups at the table. People were going to pick up the cups and dropping their controller because they're forgetting that they're not really there. They're there, but they're not, right? So that's the whole point. The point is for it to be so immersive that you don't realize where you are. It's supposed to be an escape from where you are in life. So
Okay, pause for the cause. Let me show you guys. So this is me in the metaverse behind me. You can see that. Okay, and that's Javon. She's actually in the classroom with me. So I'm teaching from the metaverse, standing there behind a podium. That's before we had legs, because at
right.
this point in time, there were
Right.
no legs in the metaverse. So only
Yeah.
half of our bodies would show up. Some of you guys might have been on our YouTube page where you saw I did some TED Talks in the metaverse, and that was at a time before we had legs, so there, we didn't but we have Red Worldwide has a whole situation, as they call it. We have a fully a completely furnished office, 3 floors in the metaverse with a beautiful amphitheater. And I mean, so sometimes I'll do speaking engagements from there inside of the metaverse. And this is what it kind of looks like. So I have my big, large screen behind me, and this here says P Rose One, a world editor, because I've been made an editor um, for the purposes that we use our office for. A lot of times when I go in there, we'll go in there private, and as an editor, you can, keep people out so you can film. So this is
Right,
some of
right.
why we do that. But anyway, just kind of giving you an idea of what she's talking about, because when we're talking about the metaverse, some people have never been inside of a headset. They have no
Right,
clue.
right.
So I just
Right.
wanted to
Well,
kind of give
just
that.
imagine being in your real space, if you're in your home, at your park, at your office, and being able to be in but it's a virtual space ultimately. Because just for example, if you don't really have an office, but you are in your house, you can put yourself in an office. That's basically the goal. But going back to the beginning of my journey, I didn't know what I was doing. It took me a while. I had a lot of people that helped me along to get me started. And once I really got my footing, I was able to really create some amazing experiences. I've created safe spaces for children, because there are children in Meta Horizon worlds. The age ranges from 13 to 17. So it's important to have safe spaces for them. I built a park and explained that it was a safe space, because of course with other kids involved, things can happen, bullying and things of that nature. So I've decided to build a safe space for them. I've built churches, I've built houses, I've built offices, I've built a lot of different, things. For example, I had someone come to me because his wife mother passed away, and they were getting ready to demolish the home and get rid of it completely, and she was really having a tough time with that. So he asked me and my partner to build the home that she grew up in that was getting ready to be demolished, so she had it, to go into, if she felt the need to grieve. So we built the home, and then what we did was the last voice message that her mother left her, we took it and we scripted a phone to put the voice into. And when we brought her into the home for the first time, she was able to click a button and hear her mother's voice. So we've fostered all kinds of, relationships and built the community just based on this thing that I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't really take it seriously. And because of that, I was able to be seen by millions of people on Meta's website. They highlighted me last year, and I was able to build a business off of just based off of creativity. And I found creativity that I didn't necessarily think I had anymore. I felt like I hit my plateau, and that's just something I just didn't tap into anymore. I felt like I left that at in a certain age range, and this brought back a creativity that I hadn't had since I was probably, I would say the last time was maybe 10 years old, maybe the fifth grade. And I
Okay.
hadn't. Mhm.
So stop there. Okay. Something happened to you in the fifth grade where you no longer felt that creative spark, right?
Right.
It just
Correct.
kind of you dropped off there. So,
Mhm.
when we're talking about, creativity, sometimes things do happen, where we leave our creative space, and so I want to kind of let someone else weigh in. I mean, Javon, I really do appreciate you sharing that, because that was just really amazing. And I've got behind me the office that she built for Red Worldwide in the metaverse. That's what you're looking at there. I'll share one of the days that we'll have the video playing so you can kind of see the office and the elevators and all of the intricate design of this office that we have. You can kind of see the three floors actually. Is it four floors? One, two, three. It's four floors. Sorry. Okay,
Fourth
the
floor.
four floors that
Mhm.
are there, and the elevator to get to those floors, but it's extremely realistic. And so we want to share that, at another time. But I want to kind of give, one of our other red people here, a chance to share the concept of creativity and what it means to reconnect. And so, Kevin, if you don't mind sharing a little bit, about your journey to being able to reconnect with, your inner person so that you can bring out some really creative things.
Okay, hi, I'm Kevin, and yeah, I earlier did a lot of work on myself. I grew up in kind of a less than ideal um, family environment, and so part of my strategy to go through my healing journey was entering what's called inner child work, and I learned to learn how to dialogue with my inner child, and it's kind of like a self-validation process, kind of mentoring myself and parenting myself in a way that was more ideal. And it was very creative, like doing a lot of journaling, and basically the coaching that I do with clients is very similar to the coaching and mentoring process that I've gone through myself personally. And so a lot of digging deep and finding out like what are my motives, not just the stuff that's on the surface, on the superficial, but really going deeper. And a lot of times, there's also a book called An Artist Way, which talks about being creatively blocked, people that get writer's block and stuff like that. And getting in touch with my inner child has really helped like get over those blocks. Like if ever I feel blocked creatively, I can go back and I can get in touch with that child part of me and usually work out some kind of inner conflict that I'm going on. Maybe, the life is about balance, having balance. And I know Patience talks a lot about that, creating balance in their life. So, trying to keep balance between work and play and recreation and rest and not have any one category taking over too much of my time, that kind of keeps my inner child content. It feels safe. It feels like my inner child's needs are getting met, and as well as my adult needs are getting met, and there's not conflict there.
That's awesome. And it really is true because again, in that, like I said, the downtime, the rest, a lot of what happens for me is, in that rest time, the creative juices start to flow. And, then it's like, okay, I have to go write this down because I'm supposed to be resting. So I want to continue the rest, but let me get all of this out, on paper or in my iPad or someplace so that I'll be able to go back to it later because it really does, come out of me sometimes in a flow. And, I want to not take the opportunity of what I'm supposed to be utilizing rest for to actually flesh it all the way out. But I at least want to get it down in some kind of schematic, whether it's to draw a picture or to actually write myself a note. Don't forget to do this, don't forget to work on this, and so I know that we just have about 7 minutes left, but I want to really kind of hone in on a couple things that I heard, from all three of you guys. I heard the concepts of how we, reconnect with that inner part of us that allows us to be more creative and to bring out things that are amazing, things that other people may not have even thought of yet. I mean, sometimes you do have that one moment in time where you create a process. It may not be a whole widget or gadget, but it might be a process that nobody else has used or that has not been widely used or has not had an iteration in many, many years, but because of who you are and the way it's coming out of you, it creates the ability for others to have that consciousness, or that thought process to be able to use this same thing for this. I never forget, I was watching someone who actually takes real live things that we use for one purpose and repurposes those things for another complete purpose. Some things that may have been used in the bathroom could be used in the kitchen or vice versa, or some tool that might have been used, very widely for one particular purpose can now be reset or repurposed for something else. And so with that said, it's extremely uh, helpful, when people are able to, create these processes that are not so restrictive, or that has you thinking, no, you can only do that thing with it. It can only be used for this. The creative side of you, will take over and says, I know this supposed to be used for this, but I could also take it and use this with it. Give you an example. It's something really simple, but I remember when I realized that I could use a butter knife as a screwdriver, okay, because I couldn't find that screwdriver, and so some people would be like, oh, you're going to ruin your butter knife. And I'm like, I'm going to be really careful. I don't want to ruin the butter knife, but a real butter knife is a little bit thicker than a regular table knife, and so the thickness of it gave me exactly what I needed to be able to turn the screw and get it all the way in there. And it wasn't so fragile that it damaged it or anything like that. And it wasn't so sacred that, I desecrated the butter knife because I used it as a screwdriver. But when you're thinking about things from the perspective, where do we get these ideas of restricting a particular item for one use or another? I have some beautiful, because I love to paint, and so I've got some beautiful, paintbrushes. However, I've seen people take these same types of paintbrushes that I use to paint, with, and make, wonderful creations to put on the wall and use them as brushes for makeup. And I mean, there are some of those brushes that are very thin. Some of them you can get into certain places as you're putting your makeup on that you can't really get to with the traditional makeup brush, And so, I mean, I will gladly take my brush, and use it, only for painting for me, but I have no problem with somebody who's able to take the same type of brush and, create an amazing creation on someone's face. So, it's kind of the thought process of not being so restrictive as to seeing everything in a way that is only the view of the general public, Johnny Q public, as they call it, but being able to take yourself away from that to say, okay, I'm not going to restrict the access of this particular thing from being repurposed for another, for something else, So just looking at things from these different perspectives can really help you. And so any last thoughts from anyone else who's on the call today, about, innovation or design? We're going to talk about next week, we'll talk a little bit about design thinking, and how that works and how it works in helping you in business. Today, I just really wanted to open up your mind about innovation, but there's a whole process called design thinking. And I shared a little bit about this in one of the last talks that I did, on a TED Talk, but I want to really share about it in co-working and then help you to understand how to apply design thinking to your business. Because when we're looking at it from this standpoint right now, I just want you to be an open book, innovate, iterate, nothing's off limits. Everything is game. Okay. Looking at your processes and procedures, the actual tools that you might have created to use, or the tools that you're using that someone else created. Looking at it from the standpoint of how can I max this thing out? How can I, as my husband would say, ride it until I break it? I mean, how do I take this and flesh it out so that it is so well used that I get all of my money's worth out of it? What else can I do with it? Why I'm a huge proponent of reusing things. I try my best not to throw anything away that can be reused for something else. And so I want you to take that whole thought process and surround everything that you're doing by, is there something else that can be done with this before I toss it? And that's, to be looked at in business as well. Is there something else that you could do with a concept or a process before you get rid of it? Is it a way that you can repurpose it, or is there a way that you can pivot with it? And I want some last thoughts before we jump off.
Okay. One thing that I thought of was you could also clean a computer keyboard with the paintbrush.
Ah, very good. And you are
Yeah.
so right. You're so
Yeah. And the other thing I just thought of is think about the 3M guy that created the Post-it note. He was trying to create a most powerful adhesive, and it was a failure for the most powerful adhesive, but he actually created the Post-it note from his failure. So that's a
Well, you
way
know
of
what?
thinking outside of the box.
You're so right. That's another one, and I think about the fact that the person who created cornflakes was not trying to create cornflakes, okay? But cornflakes was born out of a failed experiment as well, So when we're looking at some of these things that we are utilizing, not realizing that this was somebody's failed experiment, but I'm gonna, thank them for that experiment because it created a solution to a problem in my life. Anyone else, as you're thinking about something that you reuse or repurpose in a different way? Let me say this, because it's really important that you understand that um, as your eyes are being open to new ways to do old things, okay? And I do want you to write that down, new ways to do old things, okay? And I want you to not to not restrict anything, you know, look at every process as a possibility for something else that is new. I learned something, the other week when I was kind of looking at some of the things that we're using, and it's like, okay, are we paying too much for software? Is there something else that we could use in place of this? And we've been really bouncing our way back to using, instead of having so many different things that we use, trying to see, have we gotten the use out of every single thing that we already have, or is there something else that's happening for some of the software that we have that, can do the same thing as 10 of the other things that we purchased, and so as we're having this conversation, my husband and I, and looking at some of these different processes, we bounce back down to two pieces of software, and decided to kind of get rid of some of those other things, Airtable and Jotform. I mean, and I don't know that there are two other pieces of software that I have ever used as much as I use these two pieces. Airtable, of course, being a database software. And when we really get into talking about innovation in a few weeks, we're going to break it down by actually showing you some things. But we'll talk about design thinking next week, and then we'll kind of go into how does this some case studies. How did this play out for a particular company or a particular person when they actually were creating this thing that they created? How did design thinking work for them? And so in looking at, we used to have what we call Tech Talk Tuesdays, and in looking at some of the tools that we use, Jotform and Airtable both have some very similar paths, because I started using both of these, in a design phase for them where they have had several iterations. And Jotform I began to use probably within the first year that it was ever created. Evernote is another one that I started to use when it was first created. So I've had a journey. I don't know the creators of these softwares personally, but I feel like I do because I've kind of ridden along with them on their journey to success. And I'm now an enterprise user for Jotform. And so some of the things that I've been able to see from the behind the scenes of how their software is created and how it's used in hospitals, how it's used in colleges and universities. I mean, I now, talk to people, and instead of them saying, I'm going to create a form, they say, I'm going to create a Jotform. I talked about that when we had a session before where when somebody says, I'm going to use a copy machine, they sometimes will inadvertently, use the word Xerox machine instead of copy machine, even though the machine they're using might be by Hewlett Packard. Okay. They don't care that it's by Hewlett Packard. The copy machine to them is a Xerox machine. Why? Why? Because Xerox did something that no other person has ever done with that machine in terms of the innovation and their iteration of the copy machine, right? So when we're looking at it, what is it that you have inside of you that people will begin to see and actually establish that you might be the front runner, the leader, the innovator, that person, like the Steve Jobs of that particular industry. Do you have something like that? Have you begun to solve problems at that level where whatever it is that you're doing is so forward thinking that other people can actually take advantage of it? I watched a panel discussion of some innovators, and they were talking about the evolution or the evaluation actually of an idea or concept, and having the proof of concept where you actually got something to work, and you're able to say that this thing is something that actually will be, revolutionary, or for that matter, it may not even be revolutionary. It may just solve the problem, okay? And it may solve it cheaper. It may solve it, in a way that other people who don't have, access can utilize it. And this is something that you have to think about too. Sometimes it's not even about just being able to solve it with less money. Sometimes it's being able to make it accessible to people who don't have, the means. And not that I'm not necessarily talking about the money. I'm talking about they may not have computers that are, capable of using all the latest things. Can your thing be something that helps them when they don't have that? I talk a lot about what happened when I went to prison, how I didn't have my iPhone or my iPad anymore, and how I had to take a piece of paper and fold it in 9 different, to give it 9 different squares so that I could create for myself a system that helped me to manage my time and to actually manage my projects that I was working on while I was there. Yes, I was working on projects in prison, but let me just say this. It was hilarious because people were like, what is that? Why do you always carry folded up paper around? And it's like, oh man, this is my iPad. You don't understand. Each one of these things, these are my apps, okay? And this is what they do. And on one side, I had my schedule, but when you turn it over, the other side was a whole different kind of party, and I created this for myself so that I would be able to, compartmentalize the things that I needed to compartmentalize and to create, a way of making sure that nothing was missed, And so I used it in the same way that I used to use my iPad, because I had, fully grossed myself into the Apple ecosystem at the time. And so I, was operating a certain way and having the ability to take the mindset, the thought process behind using the device and put that into something else. That was the key. It wasn't so much that the iPad was revolutionary in my life. It was that it provided a vehicle for me to become organized. When I no longer had the actual thing, I was able to take what I used the thing for and recreate that in another environment. And it was very accessible because paper was almost free. Okay, so I didn't have to pay for paper, and I didn't have to pay for the mindset, because that particular experience with the iPad helped me to create a process with anything, right? With paper. And I even, I think about it now, but I think about the concept of having the nothing but paper idea, and I was going to do a nothingbutpaper.com. I mean, I was so engrossed in this thing, is I didn't realize that when I got home that other people, wouldn't feel that well, maybe some people did, but that they would feel that same passion for paper that I felt, but the whole concept was, it wasn't the device. It's the system, it's the process, it's the concept of being able to use anything to actually flatten out my schedule and my projects so that they make sense. Bullet journaling did it for me because, I was able to bullet journal on paper. I can bullet journal in the device. I can bullet journal on a whiteboard, and I have that same thought process. So with that being said, I really want you to use this time between today and the next time we get together, to talk about creativity, innovation, inventions, product productizing services, all of that, to just kind of step back a minute and say, what can I repurpose, before I throw it away? What is it that I can design around how I do everything that I do that can be useful for someone else? You live for the benefit of others. And when you live for the benefit of others, you always are thinking about the things that you do that can also be useful to some other person. And so with that said, we're going to jump off of here, and we'll see you again next time in co-working. We'll be right back here tomorrow, same time, same space. And if you're joining us by YouTube, you can always rewatch these, okay? Make sure that you're able to get the value, extract value out of it, and allocate it, in a way that is going to be useful in your life. Thank you again.